in tariffs on U.S. goods. The European Union also pushing back with new tariffs on $23 billion in U.S. goods. The EU's taxes are set to take effect in stages beginning next week and then eventually on May 15th and finally December 1st. Meantime, President Trump is preparing for negotiations with various other countries who are looking to strike a deal. Taking to Truth Social, the commander-in-chief writing, "I just had a great call with the acting president of South Korea. Their top team is on a plane headed to the U.S. and things are looking good. We are likewise dealing with many other countries, all of whom want to make a deal with the United States." Japanese negotiators are set to meet with the president and his administration, and Italy's prime minister is set to visit Washington, D.C. next week in hopes of striking a deal. As the United States' trade war with China ramps up, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth also emphasizing the communist nation's troop buildup in the Western Hemisphere and even describing China as a threat to the Panama Canal. Secretary Hegseth says China's military has too large of a presence in this part of the world. Quote, "Make no mistake, Beijing is investing and operating in this region for military advantage and unfair economic gain." He's also calling on the region's governments to work together to deter China and address threats posed by transnational drug cartels, as well as the issue of mass immigration.
Together, each for our own country, we will target and we will destroy those networks. And thank you again to every leader in this region cooperating with the United States to stop mass illegal migration and to accept returning migrants to your countries.
Those comments coming just hours ago during a regional security conference in Panama City, Panama. The National Counterintelligence and Security Center says foreign countries, specifically China, are trying to recruit current and foreign U.S. government employees. The spies are said to be posing as consulting firms, corporate headhunters, think tanks, and other social and professional networking sites. Employees let go as part of a recent federal layoff are being targeted as well. U.S. intelligence services are reminding workers with security clearances that they are obligated to protect classified data even after leaving federal employment. Happening today, House Republicans expected to move forward on a measure that would extend President Trump's 2017 tax cuts. However, the bigger issue that will ultimately need to be addressed is spending cuts. While House members need to reach an agreement on how much spending needs to be cut in the upcoming budget, the Senate will likely have to increase its spending cut aspirations as well. At the moment, Speaker Johnson's caucus is pushing for about $2 trillion in spending cuts over 10 years. That's far more than Senate Republicans are calling for. The proposed House spending cuts would be coupled with around $5 trillion in tax cuts. The Associated Press will be back in the White House press briefing room today after a judge ordered the Trump administration to lift its access restrictions related to the news organization. A U.S. district judge says the Associated Press is now allowed back in the Oval Office and other places around the White House. Tariffs have thrown the global economy into chaos. Potential widespread inflation tied to massive supply chain disruptions is weighing heavily on all of us. But there is a silver lining that most people missed. President Trump specifically exempted gold and silver bullion from these sweeping tariffs. While these new policies are triggering significant financial chaos, the administration preserved your ability to diversify into precious metals. If you're concerned about your savings, I encourage you to have a free consultation with the Birch Gold Group Precious Metals Specialist. The first step is to text America to 989898 and receive your free no-obligation information kit on gold. Learn how to hold gold and silver in a tax-sheltered account. The Birch Gold Group will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a gold IRA for no money out of pocket. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied customers, you can text America to the number 989898 to get all the information you need. Again, that's America to the number 989898 to claim your free information kit. Do so now.
right, live from Studio G and fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Here we dive into another brand new hour. Warning to all of you. The Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, American optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm for this country's future. We're kicking off the live broadcast and Real America's Voice, MTN, and other networks, reaching a growing global audience. This is the Steve Gruber Show live in all 50 states and around the world. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, President Trump signed legislation Wednesday cutting back on regulations on water restrictions. He's making showers great again. Number two, a whistleblower testified on Capitol Hill that Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg worked directly with the CCP to implement censorship even on Americans. Shocking, right? Yeah, not really. And number three, oh, ye of little faith. Yesterday saw the biggest NASDAQ rally since, 2001? Everyone can unclutch their pearls. The panicans can unpanican. Yesterday's market closed with the S&P 500 up 9.5%. The Dow up almost 8%. And the NASDAQ up over 12%. Why? The art of the deal, baby. President Trump spun heads yesterday, announcing a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs against everyone except, and here's the key, China. He increased the tariffs there. China facing 125% tariffs in response to their retaliatory tariffs against this country. President Trump announced yesterday, quote, based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. In that same announcement on Truth Social, President Trump revealed that more than 75 countries have come to the table wanting to cut a deal with the United States, but China played their hand, showing that they have no interest in fairness or a level playing field. They have no interest in stopping the rip-off of the world, including America. So now it's officially everyone versus China. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says this was the plan all along. Here he is.
This was driven by the president's strategy. He and I had a long talk on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along. And that, you might even say that he goaded China into a bad position. They responded. They have shown themselves to the world to be the bad actors. And we are willing to cooperate with our allies and with our trading partners who did not retaliate. It wasn't a hard message. Don't retaliate. Things will turn out well.
Well, things will turn out well, it seems. China has been using cheap and unethical labor to put the global economy in a stranglehold. In 1990, China was the top exporter to 8 countries. Last year, 125. President Trump was putting his foot down, as he should. Trump posting yesterday morning, quote, be cool. Everything's going to work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than ever before. That was right before the tariff pause announcement came. And this is why I said to keep the faith. The USA is going to come out on top. We're already seeing the master plan at work. China needs our markets. They can't survive without it, period. China sells us $300 billion more in goods than we sell them. And it's about to become their biggest weakness because a high tariff hits them a lot harder than retaliatory tariffs hit us. Listen again to the Treasury of the Secretary. Here he is.
Maria, I think it's unfortunate that the Chinese actually don't want to come and negotiate because they are the worst offenders in the international trading system. They have the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world. And I can tell you that this escalation is a loser for them. That they have some very smart, the economists, the academicians, technocrats within their bureaucracy, and they would be telling the leadership that we do not have the edge here. They are the surplus country, that their exports to the U.S. are 5 times our exports to China. So they can raise their tariffs, but so what?
But so what? China is our top geopolitical enemy. They know it. We know it. Everyone knows it. It's why they're the only ones escalating in this trade war. And now President Xi has trapped himself in a corner. He can't back down. But escalating like this is hurting his country badly. The foreign ministry spokesperson for China released a statement this week warning that, quote, China will have no choice but to fight to the end. And I think it's going to be a very grisly end for them. Buried in all the financial headlines is this story, and I don't want you to miss this. Another big headline is the Chinese yuan fallen to its lowest value in 17 years. The Chinese currency is crashing. The Chinese government is trying to control its crash, hoping that a controlled dip will make their exports cheaper and therefore more desirable. But they're playing with fire. And I can tell you right now, they're sweating bullets. This spells disaster for Xi in China. Their pride is pushing them into positions they can't afford to be in. What does the yuan's devaluation do to their economy? Well, imports become a lot more expensive. They're going to have a hard time importing enough raw materials that they desperately need in order to stay on top of industries like tech production or anything else. Second, a falling yuan raises the cost of servicing foreign debt. China's firms and local governments are servicing $2 trillion in debt, and that's in dollars. A 10% drop in the yuan's value could be tens of billions of dollars in repayment costs, and when it goes to 17% where it is or higher, well, you do the math. Third, this is going to scare investors. The wealthy are going to start looking to move their money offshore. The investment sector is going to lose faith in the Chinese economy, which could be disastrous for them. And obviously, a devalued yuan will result in inflation, something else they can't afford right now, inflation. So the pressure is on. If Trump continues to tighten the screws, China's in real trouble. And you know what business magnate Kevin O'Leary says? Tighten those screws harder, a lot harder. Here he is.
104% tariffs in China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, sell it back here. Never has an administration
400% tariffs. What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough.
I've had enough. As someone who actually does business there, I have had enough. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, a Canadian, by the way. He gets it. America needs to be taken seriously again. Our politicians for the last several years have made that nearly impossible, but not anymore. As they say, there's a new sheriff in town, and he seems to be taking his job quite seriously. We'll take a break and talk more about this and how it'll impact you, but for those of you that are retired or on a fixed income, you can breathe a sigh of relief at least a little bit today. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Welcome to it. I'll be right back. Like I said before the break, America needs to be taken seriously again. Our politicians have made that relatively impossible for the last many years. Back in 1995, Donald Trump was already advocating for taking this kind of strong stance. Just replace his comments on Japan with China, and you've got a spot-on prophecy for this goal, for this presidential term. Listen to this.
I would take a much harder stand. I'd take a much more difficult stand, I would say. Make a couple of enemies. I think I'd make a lot of friends, ultimately.
If the United States government took a firmer stand with foreign countries, would we be better off, or are we so much now a part of the nation of the community of nations that we can't really afford to offend anybody?
I think we'd be better off, and I think we'd be far more respected. I think the Japanese would respect us far more than they do. I don't think they have any respect for us, and they shouldn't have any respect for us, because we are idiots when it comes to what's happening. I mean, look at dealing with Japan. I mean, just take a look at what's going on. I mean, they make hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and we lose money in deficits, and nothing happens. And they say, no, the Japanese are learning, and they're starting to open up. In the meantime, every second goes by, we're losing. I just think that people would have far greater respect for this country if we took a much tougher stand. It's really quite pathetic.
That was 30 years ago. He was 48 years old, 30 years ago. Same man today, though. But now he's got the power to do something about it. Things have changed dramatically. Listen.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us. They stole our money. They stole our jobs.
Yeah. China's the largest exporter of steel now. Did you know that? But with these tariffs, Trump is giving the U.S. steel industry a shot at being more competitive, being relevant again. What does that mean? Well, benefits for those looking for a way to level up the middle class. Listen to an American steel manufacturing CEO explain the rebuilding of America's capacity to build things. Here it is.
We absolutely have had a couple people anxious about their stock market, about the stock market. But again, you know, our goal is that we're going to sell millions more dollars, so we have to hire many more people. If we do that, we're going to hire them at very good jobs, with very good pay, wonderful benefits with the 401k match. True, there's some companies that have been buying T-shirts from Vietnam and China, and they're going to have to pay a couple more bucks for a T-shirt, and then the American consumer is going to have to pay more for a T-shirt. That's obviously not pleasant for those American consumers, but I think there's going to be an overwhelming surge of hiring in America as things level out, as American factories ramp up, and people have to hire talent, buy machines. We've invested money in buying new machines because we're so enthusiastic enthusiastic, so optimistic about the future. That's going to start happening throughout the nation, and people are going to be leaning into the future. This is a very exciting time for the American manufacturing worker. We're going to be able to pull people from poverty into the middle class that used to not have an avenue. They had no shot at getting into the middle class. We're going to be able to offer them a shot.
They're going to have a shot now. Guys like that get it. You see, this is a redistribution of wealth, but not in the way you would think about it. It's a redistribution of wealth from corporations that profited from children making things in China for $2 a day. All right, so it's reshoring manufacturing. Communities will revive. National security improves because it's being made here. Supply chains become resilient. New factories create high-paying jobs, which creates opportunity for the middle class. The middle class is reconstituted. So guys like that get it. Politicians and media pundits suffering from TDS do not. Senator Elizabeth Warren about as nutty as they get, squawking and squealing and screaming like a smashed cat. Here she is.
Rhyme or reason to the numbers is just creating economic chaos. And when there's economic chaos, no one wants to make investments in the United States to build more manufacturing, to build more good jobs here in America.
Yeah. Newsflash, Pocahontas, the Trump administration has already secured more private investment in the past 12 weeks than President Biden did in his entire term. It's over $7 trillion in investment and counting. And as this plays out, you'll hear more. The establishment did everything they could to create a panic. They predicted a Black Monday. It never came. They went buck wild over the market's dip on Tuesday. They were salivating at the possibility of Trump failing, even if it meant the market and the economy crashed. They hoped for it. But their hopes have been crushed. Trump has come out on top. China is stuck in a corner all by itself now. And the rest of the world scrambling to make zero-on-zero deals with us. Thank God. Do you think the U.S. could be in this position if Trump had acted nicely or played nice? Pretty please? No, of course not. He had to break all the rules of global trade. And big shocker, Trump was right about everything. Not the first time. It won't be the last. It's not over yet either, my friends. There's going to be other drops in the market. There can be shocks today, bumps along the way, all of it. 2025 is going to be a year of surprises. That I can assure you. But it's not over. And we're in far better shape today than we were just 24 hours ago. My money is on Donald Trump. Appreciate you being here. You know, your morning deserves a lot more than weak mass-produced coffee. You need 1775 coffee like we have here. I'm going to show you this right here. Single origin, high altitude. Hand-picked and roasted for bold, uncompromising flavor. No chemicals, no toxins. It's damn good coffee. It gets me fired up here every day. You might have noticed. I get fired up here every day. Say, God bless America. You know, it's one thing we're going to have to import is coffee. We don't make much of it. But 1775 Coffee makes great coffee. And you can find out more at 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save money. And every dollar you spend is an entry to win a Tesla Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. Wake up. Stand for something like I do. Drink 1775 coffee. God bless America. I'll be right back. the way, this economic independence that Donald Trump is striving for, that his administration is rushing toward, it comes with a need, the great need for the use of American natural resources. Energy, primarily. We have to have vast amounts of cheap energy. Right now, oil this morning, West Texas Intermediate, $60.88 a barrel. Brent crude, $63.97. The point being is that this is going to drop the price of gasoline at the pump, and in fact, it's happening now. I'll check your prices today. Down again today, of course they are. Down 2 cents from yesterday, down 4 cents from a week ago, down 45 cents from a year ago. Gas is on its way to being very tolerable. In fact, below $3 a gallon in most of the state of Michigan, where I call home. What is it where you live? When gas gets cheap, groceries get cheaper. What I'm driving at here, folks, is inflation is going down. The price of eggs is going down. The price of gas is going down. The price of your electric bill is going down because of these policies. Now, we need to use other natural resources, be it gold, oil, uranium, timber, farmland. You pick it, because America's got it, and America's got it in spades. And we always have. So we need to rely on our own natural resources, get the Green New Dealers and those idiots out of the way, move forward, put America first. Period, paragraph. By the way, if you need a history lesson about literature, economics, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, let me tell you something. A great way to spend your time, do what me and Ivy do. For Hillsdale.com, 40 free courses. And these courses will continue to reinforce how important America is on the world stage, how important it is for us to be awake and looking forward. The brand new College Constitution 101, it's free, 12-lecture course. You're going to love this one. You're going to learn about the Constitution. You'll know more about the Constitution than any Democrat you'll ever meet. Ever. Gruber for Hillsdale.com. The courses are free, and they are remarkable. You'll be glad you did this. Gruber for Hillsdale.com. Check out the free courses at Hillsdale. I'll be back after this. pull the charts back up this morning, see where we are. All right. Yesterday, the Dow finished almost 3,000 points higher at 7.87% higher. The NASDAQ over 1,857 points higher, 12.16%, and the S&P 500, 474 points up, 9.5% plus for the S&P. All very good, you would think, but my next guest, who is in finance, he's still a bit conservative about what he thinks we should be looking at here. Terry Sawchuk, the founder of Sawchuk Wealth. Terry, nice to have you here today.
Good morning, Steve.
Good to have you. Look, give me first of all, your reaction yesterday. Donald Trump comes out and says, look, everybody wants to make a deal except for one country who came after us. So 90-day pause for about 90 countries, apparently. It's a 90-90 deal, except for China, who's now had its tariffs raised to 125%. What do you make of it all?
Well, obviously the bond market was giving them some heartburn yesterday, because I think it might have been around midnight, it was a little after, but the 10-year Treasury yield got all the way back up to 4.51%. And this is the thing that Scott Bessent has said is so important, and I tend to agree. We have to get interest rates down, long-term interest rates down, because we've got about $9 trillion worth of debt that we have to refinance over the next 6 to 9 months. So it's really important that rates come down. So they had to do, I think, what they had to do in order to calm the bond market down. And it was smart, because in the end, they're going to renegotiate these trade deals. Now, whether they last long term, who knows? But, they're coming to the table, and we'll see what that looks like. But I think on a short-term basis, this is mildly bullish for the stock market.
It certainly was yesterday. I mean, look, people like me had become fearful of even looking at our portfolios because we had taken such a beating. And so did a lot of people. I'm sure some of your customers got, pinched. A lot of folks did. But it didn't come all the way back. There's work to be done. But looking at this historically speaking, after events like the last few days, generally, you look down the road a year or two, and the markets do even better than they were doing before such an upheaval. Do you think that holds true here, or we have a different situation?
I think it's pretty different this time, Steve. One of the, when you look at those charts, they're just a snapshot in time. And, what's different today is that the United States has $37 trillion in debt and growing, as you know, right? We've talked about this a lot. We had a demographic tailwind with the baby boomers in the 1980s who were in their 30s. Now they're in their mid to late 70s in some cases. So I think that, the tailwind that we had isn't there. All that being said, I think Trump realizes that we need to realign the global trade system. And that's not going to come without some bumps. But if we can get past this next 12 months, I think the scenario gets far more bullish.
Well, let me start with this. Let me start with the 90 countries or so that apparently have come to the table. It's Japan, it's South Korea, it's Taiwan. I mean, these are major importers and exporters of products we need, like microchips, easy example, motor vehicles from Japan. If we negotiate deals, I mean, there's a reason there aren't any Chevrolets driving around Tokyo or Berlin or London. It's because there are huge barriers to our vehicles going in there. So by eliminating trade barriers, and we'll leave China off the table for now, doesn't that create great opportunity for manufacturing here in America? We've already seen $7 trillion dedicated to come here. To me, it looks like a positive all the way across the board. More manufacturing in America, even tariffs, so that our cars can be sold there, theirs can be sold here. Everybody's equal. What do you think?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it could be better for the United States corporations to at least have, more access. Japanese are pretty patriotic. Even if you lowered the tariffs to zero, would they buy American cars? I don't know. Maybe not. We'd have to. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think in the big picture, this is going to be good. I think the U.S. economy has not been working for the average person for a long time. Now, keep in mind, though, Steve, that if the economy works better for the average person, it doesn't necessarily mean long-term it's better for Wall Street. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that there's no guarantee that it is. And I think, through this process, it's going to be more important to do two things. One, you have to manage risk. And you mentioned our clients. Our clients really have done very well in this stretch because we didn't lose a lot, because we didn't take a lot of risk during this stretch. You have to have hedges in place. And you're never going to time the market, to catch the very top or the very, very bottom. So you have to scale out when risk is high, and when the risk looks a little bit better, then you can scale back in. You have to be nimble in that regard. But this is going to be a bumpy ride. We are not out of the woods. We may go back and retest the lows on a short-term basis before we make a more durable bottom.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned scaling in and scaling out. Warren Buffett, for the last 90 days, maybe 120 days, was moving into cash. It was in headlines. Everybody saw it. It wasn't a secret. If Warren Buffett's moving all of his assets into cash and pulling them out of the market, wouldn't savvy investors say, maybe I should do what he's doing? After all, he's made himself billions of dollars. I mean, it's kind of an obvious sign, isn't it, Terry?
Yeah, we have tools that, we use pretty rigorously. And so from our standpoint, it was definitely telling us that it was starting in the early part of March, it became much more clear that it was risk off. Warren Buffett has $300 billion in cash, but he also has, over $1 trillion in assets under management. So he didn't go completely to cash. But what he does is he raises cash and then he buys when there's blood on the streets. And we're not there. Like I said, I think this was a bullish turn yesterday, there's no doubt. But I think on a short-term basis, there's still some testing that needs to be done. The market's down another 3 or 4% in pre-market trading today. So we're going to give a little bit of that back. We'll see where the day ends. But I think we'll probably, noodle around, maybe retest the lows before we make a more durable bottom. And then, we'll see what happens over the next 90 days. But my concern, Steve, is that big tranche, almost $9 trillion of debt that needs to be refinanced. The whole world knows now that, we're sensitive to the Treasury market. We have to sell our bonds. Scott Bessent says his job is to be the best bond salesman in the world. And that's true. We've got to sell bonds over the next 9 months, and there's a lot of bonds to be sold.
Well, how important is it, and this will be my last question, we're going to be up against time here, but shouldn't the Fed, I'm looking at oil prices that are at about $60 a barrel, which is $20 less than it was just 2 weeks ago. Gasoline prices are coming down daily. They're going to be well below $3 pretty much in every state except California here shortly. Doesn't the Fed need to take a look at this and drop interest rates at least once or twice in the next 6 months?
Steve, you and I have talked about this, right? The Fed has turned into a political animal. So what they should do and what they will do are probably two different things. I mean, Neil Kashkari was just out yesterday, who's one of the former Fed chair governors, said, basically that we need to see long-term inflation come down more. I'm like, where was this conversation at in September of last year when you cut rates right before the election?
Exactly.
All of a sudden, now you're worried about long-term inflation rates.
Yeah, well,
so I don't think the Fed's going to come in and bail us out right away. I think at earliest we might get a July cut, maybe.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I'm looking at what the economy looks like a year from now for the political ramifications. Anyhow, the Dow shows it's going to be down about 400 points to open. That's about a percentage. S&P 500 down about 1.5. Same thing for the NASDAQ. We'll see what happens. Terry Sawchuk, you can find him online, Sawchuk Wealth. Always appreciate you being here, Terry. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Steve, as always.
As always. All right. Keep the faith. Stick to the plan. Do not panic. I'll be back in a moment. to the program. As you know, we talk a lot on this program about your health. It's important to me. It's important to me that you're in the best condition you can be in. Look, we got a lot of work to do around here. You see what's happening from Washington to California and all points in between. There's a lot of work to be done around here, and I need you in the top physical condition to make sure that happens. If you've been watching the program for a while, you know I take Exodus every day. It's a biblical formula, if you will, 7 biblical ingredients, and that's put in there with molecular hydrogen, which really, it just gives it the pop. And when I take it, I feel clear as a bell. I really do. And so I wanted to bring in a doctor to talk more about this. Dr. Dakota Freeman is a holistic practitioner, expert on Exodus supplements. And you can find out more, by the way, at tryexodusnow.com. You can learn more. But doctor, welcome to the program.
Hi, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Look, I've been taking this for a while, and I really feel the difference. So does my wife. When we take this, and I don't know, there's a lot of different things you can take, a lot of different supplements out there, but this one, for whatever reason, makes my head just feel clear as a bell. I mean, I feel on point. I feel like I'm invigorated. I don't feel jittery. What's going on? What is this molecular hydrogen? What are the ingredients here? Why do I feel so good when I take this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that we do in the holistic health world. Supplements are a big thing, and a lot of it is because the soil in our food is so diminished in the nutrients, right? So that's where, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need to take things if, all the harmful stuff in the environment weren't there. But I really like this product, and we have about 3,500 nutritional products in our office. This is our #1 top seller, not only because I love the whole philosophy of, biblical meets science, and it just combines those two philosophies, and it's just powerful, but there's also really, really great products that are in it that I've used for, several patients, not just for, pain, fatigue, but even emotional stress, physical stress, all these different things we're using for athletes. It's really helping with, lowering their lactic acid, helping with anxiety, ADHD, depression. There's a lot of different things that it can do. But a
lot of good things going on. Absolutely. Let me ask you about this. I mean, the ingredients are barley grass, wheatgrass, aloe, and a lot more. And these things combined with the molecular hydrogen. What does the molecular hydrogen do to make that big difference?
Yeah, molecular hydrogen is a big thing that, is talked about right now in the health world. So the biggest thing is it goes after free radicals, okay? Those are the things that really cause oxidative stress in our bodies. Everything from, cancer to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, even, physical stress. So what it does is, because hydrogen is such a molecular, it's such a small molecular ion, that one, it just goes after those free radicals, and it helps to go after more of the cellular metabolism than overall, right? So there's a bunch of different things that it can do. There's 1,400, and I say that lightly, 1,400 research studies all about the use of molecular hydrogen. And it has every single dysfunction that you can think of and the different studies that it helps with.
Now, I see folks, doctor, with these bottles that I think infuse hydrogen, the water bottles, they're doing molecular hydrogen. But how does it work in Exodus? What does it do here? How does it work in the capsule form?
Yeah, so I like it because the only thing, and hydrogen is hydrogen, that if you have one of those little devices, they work. The only thing that I notice is that the research says that molecular, absorption, you have to drink it within 3 to 5 minutes. Otherwise, it's kind of useless because it's so exposed. The way that this is mastered, and I have Dr. Cohn to thank for it. He's been in the molecular hydrogen world for years now, before it became like a health fad, right? And it's really, really great it's a selective antioxidant. And that means that it goes after the worst of the worst. And it's so cool because you can't really overdo it, and your body absorbs and takes what it needs to, and then what it doesn't, it just dishes away. And that's very different from other antioxidants, right?
So you would recommend this? I mean, look, I've been taking this every day. And I've been taking this every day for, I don't know, several months now. It feels different to me. I do feel sharper, cleaner. But for other folks, it can help with exhaustion. It can help with anxiety. It can help you sleep at night. If you can trim down on that anxiety and clear your mind of all the noise, well, then you're going to sleep better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a foundational product that I find, and I do a bunch of different testing in our office. I do muscle testing, lab testing, see what your body actually says, because if you're not testing, you're guessing, right? So this is one of the products that every single person tests really well for, and the majority of products that I use, you eventually go off of. This is one that I very rarely have people go off of because it's just one of those foundational things. The majority of ourselves, we don't take in enough, natural, healthy foods. That is like such in this product, right? It's like taking a green smoothie without having to, wolf down, a whole liter of like celery juice.
Yeah, I get that.
It's really great though, because it goes after everything from energy. I take it right before I go to the gym, but it's also great for calming the body. And people don't understand the way that happens, but it's because it's really going after cellular rather than your overall body, right? And that's where the majority of this comes from.
And folks, I'd say this. Look, a lot of you have asked, I said, well, what do the doctors say about it? Well, now you know. Here's what the doctors say about Exodus. And you can try ExodusNow.com. That's the place to go. Try ExodusNow.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll get a big savings on the deal, and you can try it. And like the doctor said, nobody ever goes off from it. Once they try it, they stay with it because it works. Doctor, really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Try ExodusNow.com, the place for you to check it out. Try ExodusNow.com. You will not be disappointed. You're listening to The Steve Gruber Show. let's talk just for a moment, if we may, about emotional support animals. What qualifies? We've all seen this. You got a cat or a yappy dog on the plane you're riding on, or they're walking through the middle of the grocery store with some dog, and you're like, really? Doesn't look like an emotional support animal. Looks like a pet that you got a little vest for. I mean, I don't mean to be cynical, but it kind of looks like, but what qualifies as an emotional support animal? How about a tiger? Yeah. Emotional support, if it doesn't work out, the tiger can just eat you for dinner. I bring this to your attention because a Nevada man has been arrested after 7 emotional support tigers were taken from his home. 71-year-old Carl Mitchell Panrup. They went to his home Wednesday, arrested him for resisting arrest. Mitchell did not have a special conditions animal permit to own these tigers, which is required by Nye County, Nevada. We've received information over the years that he has been seen walking the tigers loose around the property, off the property in the desert as well. There have been social media posts with him, with people interacting with the cats, which is also in violation. Mitchell said he did not need permits because the tigers are his emotional support animals and that the public was not in any danger from the tigers. He rescued the big cats from Tiger King Joe Exotic. Remember Joe Exotic? Yeah, from the Netflix fame, yeah. A murder for hire case involving animal welfare activist Carol Baskin. He's currently serving a 21-year sentence in prison, is Joe Exotic. Anyhow, 7 tigers, emotional support, right. At the Wellness Company, we believe in your health support. They believe that your health is your greatest asset. From natural supplements to comprehensive medical consultations, they offer doctor-developed solutions designed to support your heart, immune system, your overall well-being. Daily essentials and immune support formulas give your body the nutrients it needs to be here every morning, and join me on the program. Join the membership program, get access 24/7, get discounts too. TWC.health/Gruber. That's the folks that are supporting this part of the program, the Wellness Company. TWC.health/Gruber. The Gruber promo code will save you a pile of money. In the next hour, more about the stock market. How are you standing? What's going to happen next? Don't miss any minute of the Steve Gruber Show.